Good morning, brothers, sisters, friends, to all members of the Divine Nine. I greet you on behalf of Governor Cooper, 75th Governor of the state of North Carolina. Thank you for allowing us this space in your 2020 Divine Nine Legislative Day. We are excited to be with you to share information as far as the COVID-19 update, also more opportunities for our organizations to partner with the state of North Carolina. But first, I want to just say how thankful we are that we are yet able to gather, though physically distanced. We are socially engaged and socially together. So I'm very thankful for all of you being here this morning. We have a very concise but information-packed program this morning. We're going to continue to work together. I'll be back before you to give some closing remarks, but I just want to say again, thank you for having us this morning. Thank you for allowing us to be in this space with you. We look forward to staying engaged with you. If you'd like to stay connected to our office, our web address is governor.nc.gov. And if you want to stay informed on many of our programs, you may visit that same website, governor.nc.gov/engagement, where you can stay connected on all of our programs. We now have an invitation from Reverend Dr. One of our Divine Nine members, and then following that, opening and welcoming remarks. Again, on behalf of Governor Cooper, welcome to our program.
Brothers and my sisters, I say good morning to you, and it is my honor to ask about the President's Strong Liberation Actions. You join me now, please allow the eyes to close. Precious and loving God, we thank you for another opportunity to dear God, simply to say thank you. We thank you for the cause that has assembled us today, both physically and virtually, as we thank you for the legacy that you represent and the charter for our future. We thank you, dear God, for the servants and the servant leadership here assembled and the servant leadership that is represented. We thank you for our governor and for all those who support him in our executive branch. We thank you, dear God, for our Chief Justice and all those who support
I turned them up. People were saying they couldn't hear them very well.
As much as we are here assembled in the state capitol, we thank you also, dear God, for our legislature. For the laws that it is to enact, dear God, to you. Dear God, as we are here assembled for this divine night,
we are also thankful for the nonprofit leaders, dear God. We're thankful for people who believed enough in you and who had enough faith in you to believe that hard work and sacrifice would move them from the peripheries into the margins to believe, dear God, there was a seat at the table of equality and opportunity for everyone. So, dear God, we thank you for a legacy of being with us through things in the past, but we thank you also, dear God, for being with us right now. We also recognize, dear God, that it's so natural in the midst of COVID-19. It's so natural in the midst of a pandemic for people to have doubt. But dear God, Isaiah teaches us in his word that grass withers, flowers fade, but the word of God will endure forever. Your precious word teaches us that you will never leave us and you will never forsake us. You didn't leave our spiritual ancestors, dear God, during the Babylonian exile. You didn't leave our biological ancestors, dear God, during the Middle Passage. So, dear God, we can lean into our faith and know you will not leave us now during COVID-19. Bless us, be with us, and allow our deliberations today to be pleasing unto you. These and all of the blessings we ask in your perfect and your precious name. And let all God's children say, amen.
Good morning. My name is Everett Ward, and I have the pleasure to serve as the General President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, and also to serve as Chair of the Council of Presidents, which is representative of all of the 9 Divine Nine organizations. Collectively, we represent in the Council of Presidents some 1.5 million members of college-educated men and women throughout the world. Today, I'm especially honored to be with you as we come together virtually to continue to do the business of the people. But I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate all of the members of the Divine Nine as we celebrate the 90th anniversary of the founding of the National Panhellenic Council, founded on May the 10th, 1930 on the campus of Howard University. So I say to all of our members of the Divine Nine, congratulations as we continue to move together, onward and upward to serve our people. Utilizing the collective strength of the Divine Nine, which represents men and women throughout the world, we shall defeat COVID-19. And through this forum and many others, we will lobby for access to quality education and healthcare. And we must collectively stay focused on Census 2020 to make certain that federal allegations are represented throughout this nation. So I encourage all of us through this forum that we stay focused on the issues, but more importantly, I say to you, let us stay safe. Let us continue to protect our communities, and let us always remember that to whom much is given, much is required. Congratulations and welcome, and I look forward to being with you throughout the day as we remain focused on the issues.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. First, giving honor to God and my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm Antonio Knox, the immediate past Grand Bosses of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. On behalf of Dr. David Marion, the 41st Grand Bossless, and the 6th District Representative, Brother Kurt Walker, I bring greetings and I welcome you to the 2020 Divine Nine Legislative Day. As we come together, there's no greater time for us to recognize that we are one. We're all in this together. As Dr. Ward has eloquently said, there's issues that we must work through, but our first challenge is beating this COVID-19. I'd like to thank Governor Cooper and the administration for the job that they have done to keep our citizens safe. I learned as a Grand Bossless that all right decisions do not please everyone, but that doesn't change the fact that it's the right decision. And I thank him for choosing life. As we go forward in this, recognizing that we're working together as one, we have challenges that this COVID-19 has exposed. And we must make sure that we come to the table, that we sit down with the legislators, and that we recognize that we're all working for the same cause. If it impacts the least of us, it impacts us all. And we must make sure that we close that educational gap. We must make sure that we have health care. We must make sure that we maintain and we have criminal justice control. As we work together as one going forward, we know that this too will pass, but we must recognize that we come not as a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love, of power, and self-control. And as we work together, it's no greater time than for the Divine Nine, the NAACP, the Urban League, and every social and civic organization to come together. And as we sit today, we represent all walks of life at the corporate level, all walks of life for us in nonprofits. But we all have a common cause, that we must make sure that we overcome this COVID-19 and do what's necessary. Let's make sure that we wear our masks. Let's make sure that we social distance. Let's make sure that we wash our hands. When we do these things, the life you save may very well be your own.
Good morning. I am CHERI BEASLEY, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of North Carolina. I'm also a very proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. As the Chief Justice, I lead the Supreme Court of North Carolina, and I'm proud to tell you that we have the most diverse Supreme Court in the nation. I'm also proud to tell you that I lead the entire judicial branch of government, which includes all the courts across the state of North Carolina. And so during this pandemic, I want everybody to know that our courts are open. It's been very important to us to make sure that we are reducing the spread of COVID-19. And so we do have reduced access to our courts. But the courts are available for the most emergent needs, to include domestic violence issues and children's issues and a whole host of other issues that judges believe can be heard safely. I think it's important for us to think about domestic violence, especially in these very difficult and challenging times for so many families. We know that filings for domestic violence are down, even though the calls to hotlines are up. We know that the filings for child abuse are down, but usually the reporters for child abuse are physicians and schools and educators and social workers, and of course schools are not in session in the traditional sense. And so we must be mindful that there are extra pressures and stressors on families these times, and so the courts will indeed be responsive to those matters. But as communities, we must also be responsive as well. I want you all to know that my first order was entered on March the 16th to try to make sure that we were doing our part to reduce the spread of COVID-19. All of my orders can be found on NCDHHS.GOV. You can also go there to find information about what's happening in courts across the state of North Carolina, as well as paying a speeding ticket. You may even negotiate with the district attorney on that website, NCCourts.gov, in most counties. There are many challenges facing North Carolinians, and so we must, as courts, be responsive. We knew that the challenges existed before the pandemic, and we know that certainly there will be greater challenges now. One of the other things we are addressing are mental health issues with our court officials as well as the public as well. We know that there will be virus fatigue and other kinds of mental health issues will be exacerbated. We want to do our part to make sure that people are mentally as well as physically healthy. I too am very grateful to the Divine Nine for your continued service for communities across the state of North Carolina all the times, and every single time that we're challenged as communities, you always rise to the challenge. So I thank you for what you do. And I know together we can get through this.
Good morning. I'm Ben Money. I'm Deputy Secretary for Health Services at DHHS. I'm also a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Happy to be here today for the Divine Nine Legislative Day, giving you an update on COVID-19. Now, I do this every week as part of the Governor's Community Engagement Series. It's really been important for us to stay connected with the public, to let them know the efforts of DHHS in controlling this pandemic. Our focus has been on flattening the curve of COVID-19, and physical distancing, social distancing has really been our main means of reducing suffering and death. Governor Cooper's executive orders have facilitated that, and I appreciate the cooperation of our fraternal and sorority leaders across the state of North Carolina in supporting these efforts and really encouraging members in the community to be engaged and involved. Right now, we are moving and have moved to easing restrictions and are in phase one of a three-phase effort towards that. It's important that we take these steps in a careful and measured way. Remember that staying home and socially distant is the best protection that we have from COVID-19. Let's not become complacent. Let's not forget that COVID-19 is highly contagious and there is no vaccine. As of yesterday, there were 15,346 laboratory confirmed cases. And again, I say laboratory confirmed because there's community spread. So there's other folks that have not gotten a test that are either recuperating at home or they may be in a situation where they're actually not demonstrating symptoms, actively symptoms of the virus. We've also completed 202,000 202,000 tests in 99 counties across the state. Currently, there are 475 individuals that are hospitalized, and unfortunately, we've had 577 deaths. On Monday, DHHS began posting weekly estimates of the number of patients presumed to be recovered from COVID-19. That number, as of Monday, was 9,115. So to calculate this number, we estimated a median time to recover to be 14 days for people who are not hospitalized and 28 days for hospitalized COVID-19 cases. It's important for us to note that this is just an estimate. A patient's actual recovery time could be shorter or longer depending on the severity of the illness. Now, this interval was actually chosen based on World Health Organization guidance and in consultation with the Centers for Disease Control, as well as other state health departments. The CDC has still not put out their guidance on this. So when they do, we're going to need to update this number. These estimates are unrelated to the number of cases that are or are not still infectious. Also, these estimates cannot account for other factors that could impact a patient's recovery time or disease severity, such as age, underlying health conditions, or other means. Also, these estimates do not measure the amount of natural immunity to SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19. Doctors and scientists do not yet know if patients who have recovered are protected with natural immunity from getting COVID-19 again. Remember, this is a novel virus. This is new. DHHS is going to be updating these estimates Monday at 4 p.m. every Monday. So one of the things that I'm seeing as I go out, and I really do limit my time going out. I've only gone out twice to the grocery store in the last week. But what I'm seeing is, in some instances, nonchalant cooperation with our directives around social distancing, and as well as wearing face coverings. It's important that we follow these practices for our own health and the health of those we encounter. Let it not be said of us as leaders in our community and members of the Divine Nine that we are not participating in this. Again, people are going to look to us, as has been said before, as the standard. Also, remember that it's science and our trends that will determine the phases for easing restrictions. We've been focusing on 3 T's in that: testing, tracing, and trends. And our goal is to work with organizations, particularly historically marginalized populations in the communities for testing. And we're actually in the process of putting those testing sites up on our website. The second T, tracing, is really a core public health strategy. It's about reaching out to individuals that have encountered folks that are positive and testing them to see if the disease is spread throughout the community. We're currently in the process of hiring contact tracers through CCNC and AHEC. Training and deployment is underway, and we intend to have these contact tracers in the community before the end of the month. And it's also important to remember that our trends are going to determine where we are in our easing of restrictions. We need to see a leveling or a downward trend before we move to phase 2. Last week, I introduced the concept of 3 W's: wear, wait, and wash. So wear a cloth face covering, as I mentioned earlier. Wait 6 feet apart, that physical distancing, and avoid close contact. And then wash your hands. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, or use a hand sanitizer. Finally, encourage your members to stay in close contact with their doctor or other healthcare provider and keep up with their regularly scheduled appointments. We don't want folks to lose the attention to chronic diseases and other conditions that can put them in harm. Doctors are available now through telehealth, as well as many are starting to open up in person now that we have additional personal protective equipment available. So don't put off that mammogram or that vaccination any longer. Also, if you need a test for COVID-19, if you're having symptoms, or if you've been exposed to someone, we want to make sure that you're able to get that test. And as I said before, look to our website, www.NCDHHS.GOV, for additional resources as well as locations of testing sites. Finally, I just want to encourage you to be hopeful and optimistic during this time. It's important when folks look to us that they see a real sense of commitment, but also a sense of optimism to the future. This is a time for us to take the lessons that we've learned from this pandemic to apply them towards creating a greater and brighter North Carolina for us all. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, or good morning, I should say. My name is Caroline Farmer. I work with the North Carolina Commission on Volunteerism and Community Service inside the governor's office. You know, I love that y'all are getting together virtually. And I hope that since this is right after Mother's Day, that you did so with your families. You shared the love and encouragement with the people that are closest to you. When this all started, the very first group that reached out to us about volunteering was a Divine Nine sorority. I think that says it all. You are actively engaged, virtually and otherwise. You are leaders in your community. And I will tell you that this disease, this pandemic, has affected people of color more than disproportionately, I should say. And so it's even more important as leaders in your community that you are showing people how to do this safely, that you are talking and giving them encouragement as well as reminding them to be safe. Now, here in this room with less than 10 people, we are very socially distanced. People are wearing gloves. Everyone has masks on if they're not speaking. So I just want to let you know that we're taking it seriously here, and we want to make sure that you're taking it seriously where you are. Now, as leaders in your community, I want you to think about what's coming. Now, two of the things that are coming have already been here for a lot of people. Food insecurity, career insecurity, job insecurity. This is going to increase in numbers. This is not going down. So it's more important than ever that you are engaged in those two areas. Look around you. Look at your community. Who needs help? What are the areas that they need help in? Find the people who are experts in that area and start working on a plan to make sure that the needs of your community are being met. Now, I will tell you that we're using Zoom today. There are a lot of different ways to have meetings virtually right now to organize. But there's also ways that you can help in person. We have a website called volunteernc.org. If you go to the governor's website and look for volunteer, it's going to be the first thing that shows up. But volunteernc.org is our direct way. We have volunteer opportunities listed there so that people know what the needs are. We are sending out emails to those who have signed up so everyone knows what the needs are, whether it's Meals on Wheels.